Cleopatra VII Theophilaipta, born approximately around 68 to 70 BCE, was a daughter to a Macedonian king of Egypt, who was
Ptolemy XII Theos Philopator or Philadelphus Neos Dionysus Auletes,
and a mother uncertain, but hypothesized to be Cleopatra VI Tryphena, King Ptolemy's wife. Cleopatra VII's two-decade rule was thought to protect Egyptian independence from the impending and formerly imperial authority that was Rome before the last pharaoh's untimely suicide in 30 BCE. Cleopatra VII maintained Egyptian independence by using these factors, displaying herself as a powerful pharaoh, employing her beauty, and gaining relationships with Roman figureheads. Cleopatra's ruthless ascension to the throne provided the population of ancient Egypt with a depiction of a strong ruler who was beautiful, charismatic, and knowledgeable, which helped to further Egypt's political aims. These views made her an admired figure within Egyptian society, even with her background of reportedly killing several family members in order to solidify her power. Cleopatra would also be depicted as worshipping the goddess Isis, a symbol of wealth, prosperity, and healing, shown in the primary archaeological source 1. This archaeological source is a limestone slab depicting Cleopatra as a pharaoh and presenting the goddess Isis offerings to gain her favor. This primary source helps indicate that Cleopatra, although not of full Egyptian origin, still worshipped their gods. This served to legitimize her rule and connect her with the native religion of her people, which furthered her people's acceptance of the new pharaoh, providing Cleopatra a stable population to rule over without the fear of civil revolt. Therefore, Cleopatra enforced a positive image to the ancient Egyptian population to gain their favor as their ruler, supporting her in sustaining Egyptian independence. Cleopatra VII used many aspects of her attractiveness, which includes her physical appearance and her charismatic personality, aided by her acquired knowledge, all assisted with maintaining the independence of ancient Egypt. Many ancient historians depict Cleopatra as a highly desirable and educated ruler, such as Plutarch. Within the secondary source 2, he describes Cleopatra as was not in itself remarkable, but the attraction of her person, joining with the charm of her conversation, was something bewitching. It was a pleasure merely to hear the sound of her voice, with which, like an instrument of many strings, she could pass from one language to another, so that there were few of the nations that she needed an interpreter, which was all the more surprising, because most of her predecessors scarcely gave themselves the trouble to acquire the Egyptian tongue. This secondary source is extremely helpful in describing Cleopatra's personality, displaying her as charming and bewitching in conversation, while being highly educated in language. Plutarch also compares Cleopatra to past leaders of Egypt, who struggled with studying the Egyptian language, but provides slight evidence that this female ruler was a dependable and knowledgeable pharaoh of Egypt, which helped get her gain a positive image for her reign. Whilst this secondary ancient written source could be affected by Plutarch's common trope of distorting the historical record to make it fit his ideas of life as a battle between good and evil, it still provides how Cleopatra's personality was represented in ancient historian views. Although, compared to the other secondary source, written by Cassius Dio in the years 211 to 233 Common Era, translated by Ernest Carey and Herbert B. Foster, describes Cleopatra's appearance as a woman of surpassing beauty, and at that time she was in the prime of her youth. She was most striking. She also possessed a charming voice and a knowledge of how to make herself agreeable to everyone, being brilliant to look upon and to listen to, with the power to subjugate everyone. This written source displays Cleopatra's beauty as striking and charismatic nature that is present in a knowledge of how to make herself agreeable to everyone, presenting how influential Cleopatra was when she spoke. Although the source could be heavily affected due to the common bias Cassius Dio held, it is beneficial to present how Cleopatra's attractiveness and brilliance was a critical aspect remembered by historians, assisting in Cleopatra's public image. Therefore, these ancient secondary written sources strengthen how Cleopatra's beauty and character assisted with influence figures from around the world, which supported keeping ancient Egypt as an independent nation under her rule. With the help of Cleopatra's established relationships with influential Roman figures, these relations enforced the importance of Egyptian independence and its legacy. Cleopatra's relationships with Emperor Julius Caesar and General Mark Antony politically assisted her with maintaining her grasp on the throne by providing a powerful alliance with Rome itself, restricting Roman invasion during her reign. Ancient Egypt's vast wealth was essentially why Rome allied with Egypt. These two secondary modern sources written by Adam Johnson and Michael Grant show how Julius Caesar and Mark Antony benefited from Cleopatra and a nation. Within the secondary source 4, written by Adam Johnson from the University of Ottawa in 2022, this source mentions that Caesar's expedition to Egypt not only allowed him to dispose of a strong enemy, but also enabled him to establish a powerful ally. By elevating Cleopatra to the throne, Caesar could take advantage of many sources the queen had at her disposal. This source helps exemplify how significant Julius Caesar's relationship with Cleopatra was for Egypt at the time. While in the other secondary source 5, which is a recent written source by Michael Gren in 1988, describes how Cleopatra needed Antony in order to revive the old boundary of the Ptolemaic kingdom, though her efforts convinced him to give her Herod's Judea failed, and Antony needed Egypt as a source of supplies and funds for his planned attack on Parthia. This source exemplifies how both influential Egyptian and Roman figures needed each other's presence within their nations, either providing funding and support for military activities or attempting to expand their land. Therefore, both modern secondary sources exemplify how Cleopatra's relationships benefited Egypt's political status and independence by providing much-needed support from the Roman Empire and its armies at the time. For all of those reasons, Egyptian independence was maintained throughout Cleopatra's reign by gaining the ancient Egyptian native population's favor to have a stable rule, effectively using her desirability to assist her politically, and finally, establishing relationships with Roman figures.